I collapsed on my bathroom floor at 3 a.m., doubled over in excruciating pain that felt like my insides were being ripped apart. Blood was everywhere. My husband Marcus was screaming at me to stop being so dramatic as I begged him to call 911. Little did I know I was about to give birth to a baby I never knew existed, and my entire world was about to crumble before being rebuilt in the most unexpected way. My name is Sarah, and 6 months ago, my life was already falling apart in ways I couldn't have imagined. At 28, I thought I had everything figured out. I was working 2 jobs, morning shifts at a local diner and evening shifts at a call center, just to keep our small apartment in Detroit. Marcus had been out of work for 8 months, spending most days on the couch drinking beer and playing video games while I struggled to pay our bills. The stress was eating me alive. I'd always been petite, around 115 pounds, but the constant worry and irregular eating had me fluctuating between 105 and 125 pounds regularly. My periods had always been irregular since I was a teenager. Sometimes I'd skip 2 or 3 months, especially when I was stressed or not eating well. So when I didn't get my period for a few months, I didn't think anything of it. What I didn't know was that my body was hiding the biggest secret of my life. Marcus and I had been trying to have a baby for 2 years with no success. We'd even gone to a fertility specialist who told us that my irregular cycles and his low sperm count made natural conception highly unlikely. Those words crushed something inside me. I threw myself into work even harder, taking on extra shifts, telling myself that maybe we weren't meant to be parents. The relationship with Marcus was deteriorating rapidly. He'd become increasingly hostile and controlling. If I came home 5 minutes late from work, he'd accuse me of cheating. If I was too tired for intimacy, he'd rage about how I was withholding from him. The emotional abuse was constant, but I was too exhausted and broken down to leave. 3 months before that terrible night, things got physical for the first time. I had asked Marcus to help with groceries since I was feeling dizzy and nauseous, which I attributed to working double shifts and barely eating. He exploded, screaming that I was lazy and pathetic. When I tried to walk away, he grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises for weeks. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. I started having weird symptoms around that time, but I explained them all away. The nausea, stress and bad diner food, the fatigue, working 70-hour weeks, the weird food cravings, just my body being confused from irregular eating. When my jeans got tight, I figured it was from the depression eating, those late-night ice cream binges when Marcus would pass out drunk and I'd sit alone, crying into a pint of Ben & Jerry's. My sister Emma tried to reach out several times, but Marcus had slowly isolated me from my family. He'd convinced me that they didn't understand our relationship and were trying to break us up. Looking back, I realize he was systematically cutting me off from anyone who might help me see how unhealthy everything had become. The night of October 15th started like any other nightmare. Marcus had been drinking heavily because his unemployment benefits were running out. He was ranting about how everything was my fault, his job loss, our financial problems, his depression. I was in the kitchen trying to clean up after dinner, when suddenly I felt this overwhelming wave of pain in my lower back. "My back is killing me," I said, thinking maybe I'd pulled something lifting heavy trays at the diner. "Everything's always about you, isn't it?" Marcus snarled. "Always some drama, always some excuse." The pain kept getting worse. I tried lying down, thinking it was just muscle strain, but it felt like someone was stabbing me repeatedly. Then I started having what I thought were stomach cramps, intense, rhythmic pains that would build and then subside. "I think something's really wrong," I told Marcus around midnight. "This isn't normal pain." "You're being ridiculous," he said, not even looking up from his phone. "Take some ibuprofen and stop being such a baby." But the pain kept intensifying. By 2 a.m. I was pacing the apartment, unable to sit or lie down. The cramps were coming in waves, each one more intense than the last. I'd never felt anything like it in my life. That's when I went to the bathroom and saw the blood. "Marcus!" I screamed. "Something's seriously wrong. There's blood everywhere." "Jesus Christ, Sarah, what now?" He stumbled to the bathroom door, still drunk. When he saw me on the floor, surrounded by blood and crying hysterically, even he seemed alarmed. "Call 911, I begged. "Please, something's happening to me." "You're probably just having a heavy period or something," he said, but his voice had lost some of its anger. "Let me think." "I can't think. I can't breathe. Please just call them." The next wave of pain was so intense that I actually blacked out for a moment. When I came to, I felt this overwhelming urge to push, like my body was trying to expel something, but I had no idea what. Marcus finally called 911, but instead of staying with me, he kept pacing around the apartment, muttering about how this was going to cost a fortune, and how I was always causing problems. The paramedics arrived within 8 minutes, but it felt like hours. A woman named Lisa and a man named Dave rushed into our tiny bathroom where I was still on the floor, now barely conscious from the pain. "Ma'am, can you tell us what's happening?" Lisa asked, kneeling beside me with such gentle professionalism that I immediately started crying harder. "I don't know," I sobbed. "I'm having these terrible cramps, there's so much blood and I feel like I need to push something but I don't know what." Lisa and Dave exchanged a look that I didn't understand at the time. "Sarah, I need to ask you something and I need you to be completely honest with me," Lisa said, taking my hand. "Is there any chance you could be pregnant?" "No," I said immediately. "That's impossible. We've been trying for 2 years. The doctors said it was unlikely. And I haven't had any pregnancy symptoms." "When was your last period?" Dave asked while checking my vital signs. I don't remember. Maybe 3 months ago? But that's normal for me. I've always been irregular." Lisa lifted my shirt to examine my stomach and I saw her eyes widen. "Sarah, honey, I think you might be in labor." "That's impossible," I repeated, but even as I said it, I could see my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My stomach, which I'd thought was just bloated from stress and irregular eating, was clearly rounded. How had I not seen it before? "We need to get you to the hospital right now," Dave said, already preparing the stretcher. Marcus, who had been silent during this exchange, suddenly exploded. "Are you telling me she's been pregnant this whole time and didn't tell me?" "Sir, it appears your wife genuinely didn't know," Lisa said firmly. "This happens more often than you'd think. We need to focus on getting her medical care right now." As they loaded me into the ambulance, another massive contraction hit. This time I could feel something moving, something real and substantial inside me. "Oh my God," I whispered. "There's really a baby." The ride to the hospital was a blur of pain and disbelief. Lisa held my hand while monitoring the baby's heartbeat with a portable machine. "Your baby sounds strong," she kept saying. "You're both going to be okay." But I wasn't okay. I was terrified, confused, and completely unprepared for what was happening. How could I have been pregnant for 9 months without knowing? What kind of mother was I going to be if I couldn't even tell I was carrying a child? At the hospital, everything happened incredibly fast. They rushed me into a delivery room where Dr. Martinez, the on-call obstetrician, quickly examined me. "You're fully dilated," she said with amazing calm. "This baby is ready to be born right now." "But I'm not ready," I cried. "I don't have anything. No clothes, no crib, no plan. I don't even know if I can be a mother." Dr. Martinez looked me directly in the eyes. "Sarah, your body has been preparing for this for 9 months, even if your mind didn't know it. You're stronger than you think. This baby chose you to be their mother. Trust yourself." Marcus had followed the ambulance to the hospital, but instead of being supportive, he was pacing the hallway outside, talking loudly on his phone. I could hear him telling someone, "She says she didn't know, but how is that possible? This is insane." 23 minutes after arriving at the hospital, my daughter was born. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, perfectly healthy with a full head of dark hair and the most beautiful cry I'd ever heard. The moment they placed her on my chest, everything changed. Every fear, every doubt, every moment of confusion melted away as I looked into her tiny, perfect face. "Hi, little one," I whispered through tears. "I'm your mama. I'm so sorry I didn't know you were there, but I'm here now." She immediately stopped crying and looked right at me with these incredibly alert dark eyes as if she was saying, "I've been waiting for you to find me." Dr. Martinez smiled as she finished the delivery. "This is one of the healthiest surprise babies I've ever delivered. Your body did an amazing job taking care of her, even without prenatal care." The nurses, Lisa the paramedic who had stayed to check on us, and even Dr. Martinez were all crying. There was something magical about witnessing a life that had grown in secret, protected and nurtured by a body that knew exactly what to do even when the mind didn't understand. But the most unexpected moment came about an hour after the birth. My sister Emma, who I hadn't spoken to in months because of Marcus's manipulation, came rushing into the room. "I heard the ambulance call on the scanner app," she said breathlessly. "I work dispatch for the city and when I heard your address." "Sarah, oh my God, you had a baby." Seeing Emma's face, full of love and excitement instead of judgment or confusion, broke something open in me. "I didn't know, Emma. I swear I didn't know I was pregnant." "It doesn't matter," she said, immediately coming to hold both the baby and me. "Look at this perfect little angel. She's been waiting for the right moment to surprise everyone." That's when I learned something that would change everything. Emma had been trying to reach me for weeks because she'd noticed in my social media photos that I looked different. She'd even asked Mom if she thought I might be pregnant, but they didn't want to interfere because of Marcus. "We were all worried about you," Emma said. "The way he was isolating you, how tired you looked all the time. Mom has been praying every night that you'd find the strength to reach out." As if summoned by our conversation, Mom and Dad arrived at the hospital within the hour. They took one look at their surprise granddaughter and both burst into tears of joy. "She's absolutely perfect," Mom whispered. "And look how she's already bonding with you. You're going to be an amazing mother, Sarah." Dad, who's usually a man of few words, pulled me aside later that evening. "You know, kiddo, sometimes the best things in life come when we least expect them. This little girl might just be the blessing that changes everything for you." He was right. Over the next few days in the hospital, I had time to think clearly for the first time in months. The nurses taught me how to breastfeed, how to change diapers, how to swaddle. Every moment with my daughter felt natural and right, like my body and heart had been preparing for this even when my mind was elsewhere. I named her Hope, because that's what she gave me. The most beautiful part was watching her interact with my family. Emma immediately volunteered to help with everything: buying clothes, setting up a nursery corner in her apartment, researching pediatricians. Mom started knitting blankets and buying tiny outfits. Dad researched car seats with the intensity of a federal investigation. Marcus, meanwhile, seemed completely overwhelmed and disconnected. He kept asking questions like, "How much is this going to cost?" and "How are we going to afford this?" When he held Hope, she would cry immediately as if she could sense his reluctance and resentment. On the third day in the hospital, I made a decision that scared me but felt absolutely right. "I can't go back to the apartment with Marcus," I told Emma. "Hope deserves better than that environment, and honestly, so do I." "You can stay with me as long as you need," Emma said immediately. "We'll figure everything out." That conversation led to the most difficult but liberating choice of my life. With my family's support, I left Marcus and started over as a single mother. It wasn't easy. There were sleepless nights, financial stress, and moments of doubt. But every time I looked at Hope's peaceful sleeping face or heard her little laugh, I knew we were exactly where we needed to be. The most amazing part is how Hope's arrival brought healing to our entire family. Emma and I became closer than ever. My parents, who had been worried about my isolation, now had reason to visit constantly and be involved in my life again. We all joke that Hope was our family's little secret agent, growing quietly until she was ready to bring us all back together. Now 6 months later, Hope is thriving. She's hitting all her milestones, she's curious and social, and she has this incredible ability to make everyone around her smile. I'm working part-time from home doing freelance bookkeeping, which allows me to be with her full-time while still contributing financially. I often wonder how I could have carried her for 9 months without knowing. The doctors explained that my irregular periods, my naturally small frame, and the position of the placenta all contributed to masking the pregnancy. The stress and chaos in my life also meant I wasn't paying attention to subtle changes in my body. But looking back, I realized my body was protecting both of us in its own way. If I had known I was pregnant during those terrible months with Marcus, the stress might have been even worse. Hope grew safely and quietly, waiting for the moment when she could arrive and change everything. If you're watching this and you've experienced a cryptic pregnancy, or if you know someone who has, please know that you're not alone. There's no shame in not knowing. Our bodies are complex and life can be overwhelming in ways that make us miss even big changes. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your experience. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Hit the like button if Hope's story touched your heart, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories of unexpected miracles and second chances. Remember, sometimes the most beautiful surprises come disguised as chaos. Sometimes our greatest blessings arrive exactly when we need them most, even if we don't know we're waiting for them. You are stronger than you know, and your story, whatever it is, matters. Thank you for listening to ours.